who it's for, these boys. Thanks a lot.
So you have actor Ray Law, actor Lance Mann, actor Anthony Boyle, actor Callum, producer Gary Goetzman, and mascot Aero.
This is Blake Neely, the composer of
Here. Here. Why don't you Blake? No, I don't. Not that important. Are you sure?
Brian. Are we okay?
I think Brian got it. Okay.
Thank you. And there's somebody else in this audience we're going to have to bring up. Okay.
Here we go. Gary, sir, producer through and through. And I do have to say, when I hear the names Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, and Gary Goetzman, I know that I'm about to be taken on a bit of an adventure, whether it be through the dredges of war, through the South Pacific, sometimes through the stars, and now we're at the Masters of Air, which I think is kind of incredible. And to think that you're finishing out this sort of spiritual sequel with Band of Brothers in the Pacific, what was it about this original sort of take on that time frame, these particular men that you wanted to explore? Because it is, as we've seen, quite bloody.
Well, we did Band of Brothers in the Pacific, and obviously we had two fantastic authors on those two. We knew we wanted to maybe do the Air War in Europe. Steven was very committed to that. He really felt like his dad had been a pilot, and he wanted to tell that story if possible. And we found a book. Kirk Sadusky, who's in the audience tonight, he works at Play and probably should be, some university level, but he hangs with us, and he found that book, Don Miller's book, and we worked on it for 10 years, and John Roloff came up with some scripts, and that was it.
Just that was it. It was not that simple because
We are slow.
Well, I will say the product, this crowd, thank you guys so much for sticking around. I think it's a testament to your
Please see the rest of it.
Yeah.
All I can tell you, you made it through all the setup, and now these actors are just incredible.
Bonus. I mean, first of all, that title sequence, can we just give it up for that? But he's not the only one that we have here, so. Oh, yes. Well, you. I would figure that, you.
Turner, ladies and gentlemen.
No. I think in the audience, we have some folks from below the line between Colleen Atwood.
Yes! Stand up. Where are you?
Please say hi.
Where are you? Stand up, Colleen.
Thank you.
By the way, the luckiest moment in my life was calling Colleen because we were deciding who the actors were going to be and stuff. And I called her about this guy next to me, and she said, she hated him. Weird, but no, she loved him so much and thought he was so great in the Harry Potter series. And we were so lucky to get him. And yes, Colleen, it was you.
Yes. And he looks good in a uniform, ladies. All of them do. Also, that incredible, the reason why we feel we're in the cockpit of these incredible and harrowing moments is a lot to do with the sound design. So we definitely want to talk about Michael Minkler, sir. Also,
tonight. There you go. You can see Big Mike. Mike and Boyle both have 8 Academy Awards between them, and for them to to join us on this mission. I just can't even tell you how lucky we are in this cast and all that stuff. Okay.
Callum,
What about Anthony Boyle?
I'm going to all of Callum, I'm going to start with you, sir, because look, you've already worked with some incredible directors and actors. Little gentleman has a movie right now. I don't know if y'all know George Clooney. It's in theaters right now.
Yeah, he's an up-and-coming actor.
Yeah, I know. I think he's going to be big. But joining this sort of ensemble, this television work, and knowing, look, it's one of the bloodiest groups from World War II, and that was already a bloody endeavor. What was it about this character, maybe even I would have to say maybe this time frame, that sort of drew you to it? Because I will say you feel right at home in these period pieces. Like,
Yeah, I have the right hair. That's kind of my bit. First of it's all primarily it's directors and the team. And to join Gary and Stephen and Tom and be part of Band of Brothers and that legacy was an absolute honor. And then Egan is just the character of all characters, you know. He's a real life hero. He's part of the team that saved the world. And he's also funny and charismatic and likes to sing and dance.
Good singer.
And drink. And smoke. And do all the things that are a lot of fun, so I just tried to embrace that. Yeah, it was nothing short of an honor, really.
yeah, your character is definitely, I would say, like the lively person where I'm like, there's so much that's unexpected, but he, in the calm moments when they're supposed to be safe at home, I'm like, but I don't know what he's gonna do. Who knows what he's gonna do next? And that sort of keeps us on our edge. Anthony, sir, your character,
It's the opposite.
but he keeps me so calm. Like, I need him in those harrowing moments. Like, when you're in those scenes when they're up in the cockpit, I was looking at your face so much because I'm like, he's our narrator, he's our guiding force, he's gonna be okay. And so that's like a big, I think, responsibility also, to be sort of the voice of this series and guiding it along. That's different voiceover acting, but I think it's in addition to all the harrowing things you did on scene. Which do you think is harder? Because I think sometimes acting to that voiceover moments almost is a harder endeavor.
Yeah, I mean, it was just such an honor to be given the voiceover, to be given the through line throughout the series. I just thought it was an absolute honor, and I'm glad to do it in an American accent because no one can understand what I'm saying. So I'm just happy that I can do it in the US accent.
I really love that. And then, first of all, I will say, if anybody's like, who's Nate? Listen, I'm about to get to know him. He's gonna be a thing. You just don't know yet because y'all only saw the 3 episodes, but I've seen more. And I think that's an interesting moment for you, sir, because look, we've already seen, spoiler for you guys here, there's bloody moments in this series, and even though it's a great ensemble, you really don't feel like anybody is safe. And your character comes in sort of the later half and really drives that second half of the narrative. Was that set up that way? Were you in the beginning all the way through? What was that like for you as an actor? Did you come in on the second half? And that's also kind of, I think, a daunting task when you have a cast like this.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, I did come in the second half. I mean, people came and went from these bases all the time. And, you know, to be a new face, I was a new face, like, on the set, but everyone was so terrific, and it was such a welcoming place to work. And, you know, we just tried to suck it out and, you know, complete the mission, if you will. You know?
Nate joined us actually in boot camp.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, so we had 3 weeks or 4 weeks with him.
Yeah, climbing in planes, racing our way into the seats, and, you know, home in the yards.
You can tell he's in command. You're going to my next question, so I really appreciate this because I was actually going to talk to you, Rafe, about the boot camp that you all sort of went through because I know that is a huge part of this sort of lineage that they've done through Band of Brothers in the Pacific. You know you're going to meet your fellow actors. Break down boot camp because it's different, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, boot camp was such an incredible introduction to like the next 10 months that we had all together. And we were lucky enough to work with Captain Dale Dye, who consulted on Band of Brothers to Saving Private Ryan, and he really gets the formula of kind of bringing us together and creating that crew glue and making us really feel like a unit and that camaraderie. And that kind of happened within days for me, and I know the other guys, like we felt really like a tight-knit unit, and that was down to boot camp. And then from then on set, like when Nate joined us later, we kind of already had that feeling, and we knew each other and we were comfortable around each other. And on top of that, understanding the missions and the individual departments that we all would fall into, and kind of leading the ground crew, it was really important for me to understand the hierarchy, but also the brotherhood within that.
Blake, I have to talk to you, sir, because, I mean, let's be real, these series have all been very epic with so much of the music it drives us in these really harrowing moments. The score that you have over the credits, I mean, people are sometimes wiping away tears, or they're like, what's gonna happen next? I always love asking composers, what was the most difficult part of the composition to sort of conceptualize? Because, look, there's been several iterations within this time frame, but I think with this one in particular, the added bonus of, so much sound is going to be over some of these moments, but it is also driving the narrative. How did you balance that?
I think tonally, I was one of the few that got to be involved in Band of Brothers, The Pacific, and this one. And so tone wasn't the thing we really had to figure out. I had a lot of talks with Gary about all those being super loud up there and very actiony, to let score, instead of being its own character, let it play the emotion, because it's very emotional in the air. And I never wanted to really let these guys look like they were afraid. I wanted to more play what they might be thinking, not fear. Like, we're here to save the world, and one of my favorite pieces to this horrible to write, but when Callum looks out and sees all those, just the carnage in the sky, having no idea Gary would go to music over sound, but so glad I tried. But yeah, it was just trying to find the emotion and guide the story, because it's also very confusing in those 20s.
Blake's a secret weapon. He's written huge themes for us. The theme of the Pacific, theme of a huge 800,000 person Washington D.C. thing we did called Concert for Valor, and the theme to our CNN decade, 60s, 70s, 80s, that you've been in about 12 of them, and she's so great at them too. But I don't know if you know that theme, but he's incredible. It's just a secret weapon. I think we should just leave him in the lobby. Don't let people really visualize it. He's really handsome too.
Yeah, y'all would be jealous. I'm up here, but Gary, you have the most enviable but also difficult task as producer. In addition to these incredible actors, and Blake and Colleen and Michael, you also have these directors, this crew of directors. And I mean, the names that you guys assembled on this, folks like Dee Reese and everyone else, and they all, I think, are putting their signature clear cinematic take on it, but they're also having to be part of their own little ensemble, in the sense that like certain folks have certain episodes. How do you build that as an executive producer, those voices that you want to bring their brush onto these? Because it's a mini movie coming in.
He's a great example. We needed her brush, right? How she felt about the situations that everybody was in. She loved working on material that involved the Tuskegees, obviously, and she was just genius. She came to our premiere a couple of nights ago in Westwood. You guys are just kind of a special screening because we do love cinema. So, but just her passion for the show and the whole thing, she was just fantastic. And Anna Bowden and Ryan Fleck and Timmy. Thank you. And they were just all great. It's a different process for us. We were in what you would call a series kind of format of production, but we can't help but think that we're just making a big movie. And so sometimes we're trouble for the studio, because they have that concept of production and we have the other, but it all worked out great.
Obviously, it's really gripping. There's 6 more episodes that you guys haven't seen yet. We just started with the 3. For you, Callum, there's a lot of things that you guys had to be daunted with this. One of the things I would say, and I do not mean this as a slight, is excellent eyebrow acting. Everyone in here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You see, we have the boot camp for that too.
No, but other things, like you're singing, I saw some great bicycle stunt work going on there. I would have to wonder though, was one of the most daunting tasks to know that you guys were also going to interact with some of the real life people who were a part of this time frame? I know some of them were at the premiere this past week, and I think that's just another added thing to this, is that these stories are not as far in our distant past as you would think. There's still people living that remembered what we're trying to recreate for this. So talk about, like, sort of, if you've gotten a chance to talk to any of the folks yet, or really see that.
Yeah, we met some of them on the premiere on Wednesday. I personally don't like to talk to anyone beforehand. You know, I could have talked to Ethan's kids who are in their 60s now, or 50s, and maybe 40s. I don't like that to blur what I'm coming with, you know. But, you know, to your point, I grew up on stories of my grandfather going to World War II. He was 16. He tricked his mother. He got to sign a form that said he was going on a school holiday, but actually he was going to war. He was 16 years old. And so I feel like it's important to tell the stories for him, for others, and yeah, it's these are real people who did something extraordinary. What you saw in that last episode is, you know, I can't imagine what that was like, even though it was my job to imagine that. But you know, it's a legacy, and it's important to tell the story because these people did save, you know, our futures, our lives, and their futures. It was an honor, it really was.
Anthony, yeah, man, I just thought about this. You have the two worst N-words, sort of like, sorry, this is not what that meant, but navigator and narrator. I can't tap the audience really quickly.
I thought my career was coming before it started.
Sorry, that was so not intentional. I'm sorry, that was not intentional. Sorry, Anthony. I want to bring it to your question, though, as the navigator in the final moments of episode 3, when all of us are on the edge of our seat. Jesus. Sorry, it happened. The best part of that was that tension that you guys are building in that moment is another one of those sort of, I would say the most harrowing things, even though we've seen all of these bullets, is that when we don't know if they're going to land. Yeah. Talk about setting it up for that day and sort of how you guys did that, because I did find it to be, of everything we'd seen, that was the thing that panicked me the most of watching it. And that was so within you guys and what you were saying in your voice of like, we're gonna make it.
Yeah, I think it's in the playing of it, going up and thinking to yourself each time. Because when we were going into those planes, we weren't actually flying, we were going into these like model planes that they had built and getting all these hydraulics and going up like 50 feet in the air. We had these 360-degree screens that they had built around us. So it wasn't green screen. When we were actually seeing the planes come towards us. So we didn't have to act that hard, you know. We were getting tossed around. There was no acting required, you know. I didn't throw up, but I almost did.
Stop. Okay. Anthony Boyle, he is so fabulous in this show. Those 2 episodes, I'm sure you saw a pretty good taste of how he is. He lives in Belfast. He's obviously very Irish. He's entertaining with us. Like, what are you doing here with us? You're like amazing. And I'm always amazed when I see him or I hear him talking humbly about himself. I really just love the way he brings a character to life. And I hope you caught some of that tonight in what you saw on him, because I think it's just fantastic.
I would say that again, yet again, and all of you, because it is an ensemble and there's so many of you, there's distinct things that I think all of you have to do to make your individual character live within you. And I'd love to just ask all the actors, because look, we're getting to see glimpses of these characters. Some of them, unfortunately, we don't just sometimes against the director. Sometimes you just tell it to yourself, or sometimes it's something that we get to see on screen. So, Rafe, I'll start with you.
I'd say, well, Sergeant Ken Lemons actually wrote a book called The Forgotten Man, and that kind of became my information, my Bible throughout. And he spoke a lot about how hard he found it leaving his wife, who's only 19 years old, and he's in charge, responsible for the lives of 50 men. So kind of I'm trying to understand that responsibility and pressure. I worked with Callum and we had a locket for his wife Fonda, so that was something I kind of held with me throughout filming.
Love that. See, you're good. I love it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, when you play a real person, sometimes there's, you know, a wealth of material around that person. In this case, there was, because, you know, Neely obviously wrote this book about him, got to know them quite well, became friends with my character, Rosie. And when I got to read about him, and then, you know, he did a couple of interviews late in his life with his son, obviously, he's a much older man. But I found that he wasn't just this incredibly focused and courageous man, you know, that had this lawyerly spirit. He was a lawyer, you know, and also this warrior spirit, but he was also a man of great warmth and leadership. You know, he was a lover of music and kind of a good time. It was that balance, right, between his strength and his courage and his resolve, which it really ends up getting him through. And just that warmth, that grace that he had. Yeah.
Anthony, sir.
Yes. Harry Crosby also wrote a book called On a Wing and a Prayer, which is a beautiful, beautiful book. He's so funny and self-deprecating. I also had this 10-minute clip, which I think you may have sent me when I was auditioning, and it's Harry Crosby in the nose of the plane, and he's about 60 and he's talking, and I would listen to it every day going to work, and I would listen, and he'd start to get the voice and moving around with his body, and he's just such a curious little guy. I was like, I couldn't help but just be so in love with him, and I would listen to these videos, and I really got into him through that way.
Johnny Egan didn't write a book. So I just drank a lot of whiskey.
That is Gary, sir, I'm going to let you have the last word. These folks have got to see 3 episodes, but this is going to go out to, I believe, everyone in American Cinematic, and what can they be in store for the last half of the season? I know, look, it's history, so we kind of know, but how you guys are going to frame it over these last 6 episodes?
You know, it's basically a true story. So the story is what it is. But it does mirror a lot of things that are happening today, and a lot of things that we were happy that we could point out and maybe make us all think back on our history and where we've been and things that have happened to us before, maybe cliche, maybe learn something from it, you know. And I think we're all really proud of having done it. I'm sorry it comes out like we did. You know, I want to watch the whole thing tonight. You guys may not feel the same way.
Make sure everyone's got their Apple TV Plus subscription so they can watch it week to week. And I want to thank you all and thank the folks at Apple, our local panel.
You like that?